things like David Cassidy had. David Cassidy. I moved to LA when I was 11, and everybody in my mom's family played an instrument. My parents split up when I was 5, and I lived in New Jersey right outside in West Orange until I was 11, and then I saw my dad on the stage on a Broadway show called Wish You Were Here when I was 3.5. And I remember we were living in Manhattan, and I remember driving back in a cab saying to him, both of them, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. When I was 13, I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. And the next day I went out and bought an electric guitar. And I was always raised around Gershwin, Cole Porter, you know, the great songwriters of the time, Harold Arlen. My dad was a huge Sinatra fan. He and I shared a couple of artists that we thought were just amazing. Count Basie. I think that all of that influence musically. I saw the Beatles on TV. I went and bought an electric guitar like every other 13-year-old, 14-year-old. I just kept on playing, and I got much more into, you know, I played in a lot of blues bands and R&B, rock bands, bad garage bands. But I pursued my acting career. I worked with the LA Theater Company, and, you know, I took drama and all that. And I had very little interest in school except for in the arts. And 2 weeks after I graduated from high school, I moved back to Manhattan, took a part-time job in a mailroom, and I got myself an agent and went out on auditions. And 9 months later, I got my first Broadway show, and it was a musical. And it closed within about a week, but we previewed in Philadelphia, and a casting agent came and saw me, and I went back out to LA and did a screen test for a movie, and I didn't get the movie, but the result was a couple of other casting directors saw it, and then I ended up doing a bunch of, as a straight actor, Bonanza, Mod Squad, what was it, Ironsides, the FBI, all those classic hour shows. And then I did a pilot at the end of it called The Partridge Family. And at the end of that year, I was 19, and the pilot sold. I got the job. I started recording on my own as David Cassidy, as well as Partridge Family. So I had 2 recording careers, a television series, and on the weekends, I went out and did concerts. And when we went on hiatus on the show, I went and toured around the world and played the biggest stadiums, I guess, on the face of the earth. So I've had an amazing career, and it began that way. It was really in the beginning, I think. I mean, I could sing, and what bothered me a little bit in the beginning is they wanted me to sound younger because I had a bigger voice. So what they would do is they would slow the track down slightly when I would go in and double my voices, you know, as a lot of artists do. They still do. But it's a technique where they slow it down, and then you sing it slightly a quarter of a tone down, and then when you come back in, when you're dealing with 16-track or 24-track actual tape, you speed it back up, and you sound a little, your timbre of your voice sounds a little higher.
Yeah.
By the second or third triple platinum album, I said, you know, I want you to really stop doing that. So I didn't throw my weight around much, but I thought that was a pretty important thing for me. I was totally invested. I mean, I worked 16 to 18 hours a day, and they owned my name and my likeness, and that was part of the deal. But at the same time, I had no control over, you know, David Cassidy bubblegum cards and comic books and magazines, and, you know, I mean, the amount of merchandise. a lot of people have credited me being the first globally, internationally marketed entertainer. And I guess, certainly to the degree that would be true. But it was still me. I loved playing the fool on the show and being, shallow, and it was funny, and I was able to get humor out of it. And for me, I always loved when they gave me the opportunity to make a fool out of myself. And as far as the music, I was totally dedicated because I'd work every night in the studio singing live with the guys, and most of my vocals ended up, certainly after the first bunch of recordings we did from the second album all the way through, I think most of the vocals are live. And I still sing that way. I still play that way and sing live with a band. Could not. You can't possibly compare it. That business was run by artists. Now that's run by lawyers and bean counters, and it's a totally different business. They looked for uniqueness in the early 70s when I started recording, the individuality, and it was the first album, people got to sort of hear about you, maybe know about you. The second album had to grow a bit, and your songwriting, etc., and songs evolving. And by the third album, you had to make it. Now it's by the third week of your first single, and you're dead in the water. So it's, you can't even compare it. It's not, now it's cookie cutter. It's who your agent, who your manager, and who your lawyer is. And it's run pretty much by those individuals. In those days, it was, there were record companies that were run by musicians and writers and artists and song people, music people. I mean, I loved it. And I got to meet and write with and play with, I became very good friends with John Lennon and also with Yoko. But I played with John a number of times, and he was very much a mentor to me. I got a chance to play with Paul McCartney. I got a chance to write and play many times and become friends with Brian Wilson. And, I think of all the artists, I really loved Mick Ronson, who was with Bowie, and basically was the heart and soul of Spiders from Mars. And, I got to know so many great players in my life, and Lowell George from Little Feat, and on and on and on. Van Dyke Parks. I could name, to become friends and also to be able to play with them was really a thrill. Elton, just a lot of great musicians, and it was an amazing era to be successful in, and that kind of success, all over the world. So I felt very blessed to be able to do that. It would be really after not on the road, not touring, not on the television show. I'd love to be back in the studio with all of those guys if they were all alive, and we were all more or less in our prime. That would be fun. But I think it was the camaraderie that all of us felt. Harry Nilsson and I became very good friends. Jimmy Webb, writing and sitting, until 4 or 5 in the morning. Obviously the time was very different, and we'd be drinking and just partying and playing. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and an awful lot of the latter. It's funny, people have often said, oh man, I bet you were high all the time. I couldn't possibly have gotten high, working 16, 18 hours and showing up. I don't know how anybody could do that. For all those years I did the Partridge Family, I never did. I couldn't even drink until it was over. I finished my last world tour playing stadiums from all over Main Road, where Main Road is where Manchester City football team plays, soccer team plays. Played there. I played a place called White City where the Olympics were at one point. I played the Melbourne Cricket Grounds to 73,000 people. I played the Astrodome to 62,000. When you play those kinds of venues, it's an event, and it's not necessarily a concert. And by that time, it was about 5 years. I really was burned, and I just left it at the top. I didn't want to see myself ending up being some sad, washed up guy in a jumpsuit. So I took a break for about 3 years, and I went back to studying and acting, and also writing and producing and co-writing with various artists, that couple of which I mentioned. To be honest with you, I wish I could have sex like David Cassidy. So I don't know about anybody else. It was a long, long, long time ago. I heard about it, and I heard it, and I thought, wow, it's a really, really great piece of work. I thought incredibly creative. I loved a lot of how it's like you rip something apart and you stick it back together again, and whoever did it, wherever it came from, I'm a fan. That's all I can tell you. And of course, I'm very flattered. But when you get labeled a sex symbol or an idol, oftentimes it inhibits your own personal creativity. I'm way beyond it because I've been able to do just about everything I wanted to do. But yeah, I mean, I remember I talked to Shaka Khan after that great, great record came out, Chaka Khan, Chaka Khan. And I remember she said, man, that's like, it's so cool that he came in and rapped it. And I was like, okay, okay. And I imagined someday maybe I thought, will anybody do that for me? Nah. So when I heard about it, I went, okay, what is this? Am I being lured into something? But when I heard it, I just thought it was brilliant. And I said, yeah, if you want me to talk about it or just be there to support it, whoever UK legend might be, I think it's very cool. The amount of my voice being used, it's used in such an interesting, and it's a very hip way of, I guess, entering it. And I guess, sex like David Cassidy probably works in club environments. So I mean, I like a lot of dance music. Don't get me wrong. It's becoming more and more crossover pop, and there's so many different elements of it, like these mashups and stuff. I think it's pretty cool, and a lot of people probably in their 20s know of me, heard of me, like I did probably with, some when I was in my 20s, heard about artists, 20, 30 years before, and I knew of them, I saw them on television, or I heard about them, and some of them heard the records and the music all along the way. But I love the fact. I mean, I hope it's a giant hit. If they want to send me a little taste on the side, just wet to my beak. You know what I mean, huh? No, I'm honestly, I'm really flattered by it, and I hope people in clubs love it. It's a great song. It was the biggest selling record of the year, and it was a monumental smash worldwide. And what he did with it, it's interesting how he just, they took this and ripped it up and tore it apart, put it back together, backwards, forwards, and really interesting, really, really creative. And I appreciate creativity. I leave for the UK actually. In November, I'm doing, I think, 7 or 8 arenas all over the UK. Wembley and a whole bunch of places. But that's in my plans. And today I'm getting on an airplane in about another hour. So here's to UK legend, and I think I love you, and sex with David Cassidy, and I hope you all have a lot of fame and success with it.